This podcast is brought to you by Living Swell Studios. When you want to record your next hit, broadcast your next live stream, or just need a quiet space to edit your videos, Living Swell Studios can accommodate all your needs. Located in New Orleans, they're equipped with a rehearsal hall, print shop, photography space, and more. Living Swell is your one-stop shop to facilitating your vision. Let them fulfill your music and video dreams.
Hey y'all, what's happening? This is your boy, Professor Drew Bayham. This is Drew's putting it out there. I know I'm sorry we skipped a week, but I needed a break from just doing a lot of things. And so I'm delighted to have, for a part 2 series, because we enjoyed our talk so much so that I was like, yeah, we just, matter of fact, Brice hit me up like right after we did that when it was like, bruh, I enjoyed that. We got to do that again. We got to finish this. So, my guest, one of my guests is none other than Dr. Brice Miller. Yes. And also, and also cohorting with us this episode is my Sharia Moore, my two-way bell, my thorn in my side. My number one fan, all that other good stuff. Yes. Give it up for Maya, y'all.
Show some love for Eve in the house.
And on the camera angles, yes, indeed.
Al Heyman
Podcast. That's what I'm talking about.
Al Heyman the podcast.
Big round of applause for boy Roast Beef Jenkins, a.k.a. Irv Darby.
Yes,
How about
sir.
y'all? And a special shout out to my girl. She's running the consoles. It is Nicole. Yeah, we wanted her to take the place of my niece, but we just we still on a beer budget, so we have to have somebody else to manning the boards. So I'm grateful. Shout out to you. All right, good. Let's get into it because I had a moment. Basically, when I read about the passing of the great Vernon Jordan, I was like, okay, but I realized I didn't know who he was. Like, I didn't really know who he was because I had mistaken him for somebody else. And that was Eddie Jordan.
Oh.
And so like what happened is that because I wanted to use this as a point and idea to talk about. And I remember this is 2005, 2004. Eddie Jordan comes into the DA's office. Mm-hmm. He won the DA's race and came to the DA's office, and he got rid of a lot of people.
He was going to be a progressive.
He wanted to be progressive, so he got rid of a lot of people, majority white. Mm-hmm. Because his argument was he wanted a coalition of people who represented the parish.
Mm-hmm. And he also was, breaking up what had been the long standing of Harry Connick Sr.
Yeah, exactly.
Who had been there like forever.
25 years or something like that.
Forever.
He was DA for 25 years, yeah.
So, him and Fody.
Yeah.
Right. And so, and I remember, he got sued because, they believed that it was racial. It was just racial discrimination. And his argument was, no, I just want people who live in all these parishes to be working in all these parishes.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah.
But of course he lost, and, he had to, pay some type of restitution. And so, like, he really wasn't a successful DA, to say the least. Mm-hmm. Which brought me to a deeper idea, and I'm gonna put it out there. I know, and I've heard this in barbershops all over, that type of thing, and I believe it happens it's happened in every metropolis in the country. When are we going to get out of this ideal that, first of all, that living on the outskirts is better than living in the city? But I think more importantly, is that what, I had to ask myself, what was Eddie Jordan trying to get at? What was he trying to get at? And I was like, okay, the only logical one that I can come to is that he wanted people who lived in the city, who lived in the parish, so that they can pay taxes in the parish.
Right.
Like one of the biggest things that we've often complained about a lot is that, you got all these folk, probably half of the people that work in the city don't live in the city. So they're literally taking the tax revenue that Orleans Parish needs to do that.
I mean, well, you see that every morning on I-10.
Right, exactly.
Right.
Coming into the city, so that proves that.
Yeah, and so they're bringing that tax revenue to
Other parishes.
I mean, and I don't even I give a pass to Jefferson because we're literally right across the
But it's LaPlace, it's
Yeah,
Esterham,
LaPlace,
it's St.
yeah.
Charles,
Exactly.
St.
Yes.
Rose.
exactly Slidell.
Mandeville.
Exactly. So for me it's like I'm putting it out there because I know for a fact that I'm not the only one who's thought like this. Who's actually, thought about it and looked around and was like, yeah, this is kind of jacked up, And I used and as Maya and I were talking about it before a couple of days ago, I was talking about like the same thing happened in Detroit. The only, for the auto industry, the only workers that were working in Detroit was the people who put the cars together.
Right.
But the spark
Factory
plug
work.
plant was in Flint. The alternators were near Ann Arbor. Like all of the
All the
outskirts,
different suburbs.
Scattered.
all the different suburbs were able to cash in, on work that was that should have been done in Detroit. So when the that's what makes it messed up is because when Detroit started laying people off in the 80s and the 90s, the only people that were left were the people who made the parts.
Right.
So Detroit is destitute. And like I said, Ann Arbor, Flint, I can't think of the other one, where the AC Delco plant was. But like all of them are still thriving. Why? Because they're making the parts.
Right.
So now it's like, okay.
But Detroit has a beautiful riverfront, though.
Right.
They just redid the riverfront a few years ago. It's beautiful, man.
Yeah. And so I'm thinking about that. I say, okay, when the oil companies left New Orleans in the 80s, because my dad would always tell me about that. He worked for Shell. He used to work for Shell. So it left us with nothing but tourism to bank off in revenue. And then you had the people who worked for the state, who worked for the city, who just literally worked in the actual city. And the tax revenue that can actually clean the city up, do all those things that we ask for. Those revenues go, to St. Tammany, St. Bernard, which I'm not tripping off of, but if you don't realize that you're taking away 40% of the tax revenue and sending them elsewhere,
Right.
you don't need to work it. You know what I'm saying? I don't know. It's just my take.
No, look, I'm not even gonna
What you
touch on
think,
it.
Eve?
Look, I wasn't gonna touch on it because I live in Jefferson Parish and I work in Orleans Parish, so I happen to be one of those people. But I do, I understand what you're saying, and I agree. Police department, stay in Slidell.
Yeah.
They commute every day, and we do need people that live in the city because that's the only way we're gonna fill up the streets. But we also need the politicians to stop stealing the money
Right.
and put it where it's supposed to go.
And I think to piggyback on that, and that actually
Yeah, exactly.
actually goes along with what we spoke about on episode 4 a little bit when it comes about the city and we and all that type of thing. I also think that even going back to Eddie Jordan, there's a responsibility of the local government to ensure that whatever tax dollars are coming in, that you are providing a equitable quality of life
This is true.
for families and for individuals. I don't care what type of job I have, whether I work in the service industry, the tourism industry, or the oil industry. I still want to live in a safe community. I want to have access to, it doesn't have to be, the idea of fresh food, but I want to have access to a grocery store, not just a corner store. I want to be able to drive my car down the street without, the front axle falling off, or
because of the
conditions of the infrastructure,
Right.
So when you begin to think about all of those things, I think we have to kind of go away from, is it fair, in kind of putting yourself in somebody else's shoes.
Right.
Because, thinking about living in an urban core, all right, if you're young, if you don't have kids, you're partying, and there's a time and a place for that. But once you have kids, because that's what's going on in New Orleans now, so the whole thing post-Katrina, you had all these folk who moved here. It was hip again. It was the urban core.
It was the place to be.
But what happens the moment they have a child? The moment 6 months pregnant happens,
Oh no, this is it's too
they're
rough.
out of here.
Can't do
All of
that.
a sudden, they find the problem.
Right.
From education to infrastructure, et cetera. So I say that to say, because if you think about when Eddie Jordan was here, also, it's a different New Orleans.
Right.
It was a different New Orleans. So you had New Orleans East, which was a middle class and upper middle class hub for people of color. We were just talking about this last week, because it gets depressing. We got to drive from Carrollton to St. Aug. You pass that. You pass all that eyesore, and it starts to drain you. And it was the same thing when my daughter went to St. Mary's. As soon as you get off the interstate, you got a prostitute. Literally at the stop at the red light. The moment you go to the interstate at 7:15 in the morning, you got prostitutes out there.
Right.
So that begins to drain you.
Yeah.
It does.
It does.
It's
And
very
we were,
depressing.
I was like, bro, there used to be a time where you could drive through Gentilly. You could drive through Press Park. You could go through the East. You had these. It was beautiful. It had these pockets, and you felt a sense of like, the sense of accomplishment. Like, this is where I'm gonna go. This is where I can get to. But think about it now. The only place
don't
you
wanna
can drive through is a white community. Either the Irish Channel, some parts of the Garden District.
Yes.
And you gotta hope you don't
And
get
you
carjacked
gotta-
when you get to the stop sign.
Yes.
Right. I feel that. I feel that 100. I think that for me is like, okay, we can, I believe that we can hold those politicians accountable by having the numbers and the outlook that needs to be there. Because as long as the fund doesn't reach 100%, they can cipher, as much as they want to, because nobody will notice. Because we already know we ain't filling the quota.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So if okay, we need $100 million to suffice, to fix these roads and the tax base is $100 million. That's what they estimate, and we only get 60. If I was a politician on that level, I'd chomp $1 million off that too, because nobody knows.
It's true.
and
It's true.
that's
You
what's
can
been going
scale,
on
yeah.
forever.
Right.
And it's,
So
I was just about
and
to
so I'm
say
like,
forever.
and that's what I'm saying. It's like, look, if we could just find a way to, like, I ain't gonna say make up that money, but but with more people who are paying into, or who are paying into the tax base, the more accountability will happen, because you have more people asking what's wrong.
Right.
You have more people that says, I have enough resources to run against you.
Well, I don't know, Drew.
We ain't got too much to pick from.
I don't
We
know.
don't have that much
Well,
to pick from.
because out of that tax base comes a Sidney Torres.
I'm gonna say what you saying to
Right.
me. What you always say to me. There you go thinking.
Without you got there you go.
Now you go thinking.
All right.
You
got me on that.
Because it's like, so my kids, my younger kids play soccer, right? And they're the only dark-skinned kids on the team. They're only black kids on the team. My son is the only black kid on his team, and my daughter's
feel
literally
bad.
the only
Mine
black
was
kid
too.
on my team, right? But the thing I love about soccer is it's kind of a microcosm of our society, right?
Exactly.
And the majority of those families live in Destrehan, St. Rose, Covington,
Bell Chase.
right? But their kids go to Brother Martin,
Jesuit.
Dominican,
All in the
Jesuit.
city.
So they take that drive,
Mm-hmm.
you know, and at the end of, I want to say it was last soccer season, one of the parents had a little house party. So we go to this community in Destrehan, right? As soon as you get off the Destrehan Bridge, which I love, it's a beautiful bridge. You know, I love architecture, right? It's a beautiful modern bridge, right? But it's something plantation, and I have my thing with when communities called plantation. It simply means who they want in and who they don't want. But anyway, that ain't got to do with this.
Very clear.
So-
It's very clear.
But beautiful house.
Yeah.
Beautiful house,
Oh,
right?
wow.
The husband works at a chemical plant in Chalmette.
Of course.
Now, they live in Destrehan.
Right.
He
But
works
they-
in
Chalmette.
Chalmette,
Ooh,
and the
that's
wife
a
is a
drive.
realtor. Beautiful house, right?
Wow.
Those houses start at about $345 to $400.
Mm-hmm.
However, the ride from Destrehan to New Orleans is 15 minutes.
Yeah.
It's night and day.
Right.
Yep.
So they're willing to pay that $400,000 plus because they ain't got to worry about their car being stolen.
Right.
They at peace.
They're at peace. They don't have to lock the back door.
Yeah.
Yep.
They can sleep good at night and it's quiet.
And it's
you don't,
quiet.
you know.
They
so
don't need their Glock on
those
their side.
quality of life issues.
Right.
But the problem is, what money are they spending in New Orleans? They might stop at Costco to make groceries, get gas.
Might go to Trader Joe's.
Might go to
on the way
Trader
home.
Joe's, but all that's on the way back to Destrehan.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
And then they're good. I think that I like this guy, Gary Chambers, that's running for Congress, right? Because he's saying a lot of things, which is, first, we need some new blood.
Right.
We need some blood that represents
Some
our
real- yes.
generation. We need some innovative thought. And we need to stop electing people who give us this feel-good rhetoric,
The circus.
but ain't nothing changing.
But ain't nothing changing.
Bro, I
Exactly.
moved into, and I'm gonna shut up, but
No,
I moved into my, where I'm at in Carrollton. I bought my first house in that neighborhood in 1996.
Right.
I was 21, a student at Xavier.
Right.
Bro, I got streets. Since 1996,
Ooh.
they ain't never been paved.
That's how it is in the East. Like certain
No.
areas in the East, especially around Chef and that is Lonely Oak, all that. Still got stuff. The streets been the same since I was a kid.
Yep.
And I'm 35.
Yeah. No, this is true.
Right.
That's true.
The 2600 block of Dante don't have a single drain.
And when they do come fix it, they use tar, which in about 2-3 years
Broken
Right.
back
it's
again.
broken back up.
But not only that, it
2-3
comes.
years. Just about 2-3 months of trucks.
Right.
with
Well,
two
yeah.
wheels.
But not only
Yeah,
that,
'cause the
it's the health
construction.
thing of the asphalt. Because that asphalt constantly breathes. So you ain't
Right.
got no trees
you
in
ain't got
black
no tree-
neighborhoods.
Right.
That sun is hitting that asphalt,
asphalt,
and
yeah.
you constantly getting that
Kind-
oil, that petroleum
Yes.
that's popping
That
off
you
of that.
get.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
It's all of these. But anyway, they ain't
All
there.
Yeah, then we can spend 3 hours on that.
On
period.
just that.
Just
Just
3
that.
hours
Look.
on that period. Well, I just wanted to throw that out there because I think it all plays into just the mindset of how to navigate the city, how to navigate, or just how to navigate urban, in general. Which kind of brings me to the next subject that I wanted to go into, which is with the Texas governor saying they're going to stop the mask mandate. Well, Texas and Mississippi. And the Florida's been
Scary.
doing it for the past 4 months. They're just, Florida has
be
already
in
just taken
Miami.
the idea and just said,
Right.
all right, at one point everybody going to get it. Just stay away from the old people.
The same state since the Confederates, just
Right.
trying to just fighting to see who can be the dumbest and the worst.
Right. But but it brought me to a thing because for me it's like it's not even a black, white, or racial issue. It's an issue of geography. We live in the city. So we're constantly around people. You're gonna pass 1,000 people a day.
Right.
If you have something to do.
Mm-hmm.
You're gonna pass it because that's just the way city life is set up. But it's the rural people who are making all the noise. You only see 50 people
If that.
in your in your day. The high school only has 200 kids. So you're not worried about COVID as much as if you got to send your kid back to school with 1,000 children, in it, or 600, 700 children in it. So it's like it posed a question for me: Are we just at an impasse, and we just have to acknowledge it? That it's like we are never going to see eye to eye on when to open up or when to stop the mandate, or or it's just going to be that, and which I am kind of seeing. I don't want to have that foresight, but I just kind of know that's about to happen. Is that we're just going to have to open up just like Florida, Texas, and Mississippi.
Yeah.
Or either it's just going to be taken over. The people just going to do what they want.
I've been saying since April, the mindset really has been get in where you fit in. Mm-hmm. Each man for himself.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? That's really that. I mean, there's much more to that, but that's been the thing. Because I'm chivalrous, I'm gonna let Maya go. I'm gonna let Maya go first before I say anything else on top. So.
I know.
No, I feel like if we would have shut down like China, completely closed, and I mean seriously, we could have gotten a real handle on it better.
Right.
But once people got tired of just kind of being in, you're only gonna be restricted for so long. That's the reality.
Right.
You
As
know?
Americans, we don't believe in just getting down or lay down. We like, now we're gonna do
No,
what
we
we
gotta
want to do
do
regardless.
something.
We gotta do something or we gonna snap.
Yeah.
So, and my thing is like I went out Sunday. I was just looking around like, dang, they let the city open just a little bit, and the lakefront have traffic. I never
That
seen
lakefront was
I never seen traffic on the lakefront like that ever.
that's Easter Sunday pack.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, it's Easter
yeah.
Sunday pack.
Daiquiris and
It
crawfish.
was. They had people out there barbecuing, all type of stuff. The matching vehicles, the Chargers, the Jeeps, everything. And I'm like, dang, you just let the city open just a teensy weensy.
Yeah.
Everybody came outside.
I think what we've seen over the last, what's about to be, I mean, March 15th makes 12 months,
12 months,
for us
yeah,
in
a
New
whole
Orleans
year.
in terms of shutdown. Well, in terms of our industry,
Right, yeah.
March 14th was the last performances.
Yeah.
The 15th, everything shut down. But I think what we have all seen,
Mine was a 13. Yeah.
I think we've seen what America has shown us is how broken this country is and how fractured this country is and has always been. And it's something I've said in my research, and it's a part of my rhetoric about New Orleans,
Right.
and that is the moment we take away the second line in the Mardi Gras Indian, the crawfish balls, all those social things,
Social,
Mardi
right.
Gras, etc.,
'Cause that's
is
what New
when you're
Orleans
gonna really see the essence of this city.
Right.
Right.
And what happened when we got shut down?
Right.
We saw all the problems.
Right.
Because, when you're partying, it's like
you're
driving,
not
it's like
even
riding a
worried about
motorbike.
it.
If you're doing 80 miles per hour on a Kawasaki, everything's a
worried
blur.
about that.
So if
Just
you're
passing
constantly
by.
partying and drinking and doing your thing and, you're making celebrations so you're able to ignore the people under the bridge. And,
Right.
you're able to, we've all become numb to the crime because we hear it so much on TV until it hits us personally.
Right.
It's the only time we really get into an uproar. You know what I'm saying? But America has been that way.
Right.
And I mean, think about it. It's about to be 12 months, and Congress is still fighting over should we give people $300 for
Right.
unemployment or $400?
Yeah.
Right.
Because $600 is too much. And should we give them a $1,400 stimulus? Because
Or
that
a $600
$1,200 stimulus, the only people who won was Walmart. So maybe all these things
like
are
crazy.
the rhetoric is so. I'm sorry, the rhetoric is so stupid.
It really is.
But it's shown us how fractured we are as a country. So going back to specifically about the whole mask and opening, etc., because like you say, the folk in rural Texas
Right.
who have the money to push the governor to say things because they own those cattle farms.
Exactly.
You know what I'm saying? That's worth $16 billion.
Yes, they do.
You know what I'm saying?
Something we don't have.
He ain't concerned because, like you said, there's only 15 people in the town.
Right.
Yep.
He just want to go to his bar down the street. You know what I'm saying? He ain't thinking about Houston.
Right.
He ain't thinking about New Orleans. He ain't thinking about Atlanta. And because again, our political infrastructure is so broken that there is nobody that's
There
going to
is
stand
nobody.
and say, no, this
No.
isn't what we're going to do.
This is true.
But I agree. If we would have, I'm not an epidemiologist, but if we would have shut this country down for 3 months
90 days.
and just simply
solid.
paid people, God damn it, just give the people some money.
Yep.
Not this old, bottom of
500
the
here, 600 there, and then all to add up to what it was, 2,000, right? It's like, why?
When
When
if we
Europe
would have
was
just gave the
giving
people
$2,000 a
money,
month.
gave people $2,000, $2,500 a month,
A month.
shut down for 3 months, people would have chilled.
Yep.
People would have saved that money.
Yep.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? People would have beautified their home and their yard and
Yep.
all this kind of stuff.
Things they didn't
Property
get
value
to
went up.
Property value went up. There would have been no host
And
for the
that's-
virus.
for the virus.
To
Yeah,
go.
because that's really
The virus would have died out, and we'd be back to.
And
back to normal.
It was really that simple. Come on, man, it's a coloring book.
and
Yep.
and
China
just like
did it.
Italy,
They did it.
just like Italy and Switzerland and Sweden, like the waters became fresh again.
You could see straight
You could
through.
see straight through the water.
The waters
In
became
Venice.
fresh again. The
Venice,
fish
you
started
could
to
never seen it
multiply.
before, and you could see straight
Straight through it. Beautiful.
Yeah, so I mean, now, of course, if we would have paid, if we would have done that, supposed to do that, but we're not going to do that just mainly because we're capitalists, and that's just what we are. So in capitalism, there's a master class and then there's a slave class. That's just the reality.
Right.
This is true.
It's a 99.9%, of us who are just going to bust our asses into, and then there's that 0.1% who just like the 0.1% who's just going to reap all of the benefits.
But there is another class that you got to mention, and that's the patriots. That's the people in the middle, and that's the people that they sucker into the military. That's the people that I'm willing to die and fight for this country. Because you got you got presidents who ain't never been in the military. They ain't going to fight for
They ain't
nobody.
gonna
And
fight.
their children ain't going to fight for nobody.
Okay.
I know you're not talking about President Bone Spurs.
Bruh, you can
Bone
go way
Spurs.
back. Keep going way
Keep
back
going
just
way
from
back.
him, and then you
Bone Spurs at 20 years old.
And then you need that poor class because somebody got to work the factories and
Somebody
build
work the
and build things.
Yep.
So you got that. I call it the patriot class.
Yeah.
Which is the middle folk, and that's the folks that's gonna go out and fight because it's brainwashed. Because they try they listening to the upper folk thinking that if I do what they say, I'm gonna get there.
up there.
Right.
And then they fighting against the bottom folk because they're saying if I don't do what they say,
Then
I'm
I'm
gonna
gonna
become
end up
like them.
Right. You are correct about that. That is on point.
I didn't mean to interrupt you. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, we good.
But that's the same research that goes back to the 70s. I can't think of the name of this book, but there's this book that talks about why do white folk continually vote outside of their interests. And exactly the metaphor that we just said. That's why.
That's why.
Because they've been told that if you don't do
Don't
what we're
do what
saying
they-
do,
you're
you're
gonna
going to be
end
like
up
them brown folk, them black folk.
And
But if
know
you
they don't
follow
wanna
us
do it.
and you wave that flag
Yep.
and keep on fighting for
Get
us,
on in there.
you're going to suffer a little bit. But we're going to hook you up, and eventually you're going to get to
gonna
where
get
we
up
are.
That shit worse than religion.
Bruh.
That's the whole.
But it's based on the same
The
thing.
same premise.
But the only difference is that God is patriotism.
Right.
That's what the God is. The God is patriotism.
Yeah.
And they fighting for it. They're trying to get to
Trying
it.
to get to it.
And they've been
And
trying to
gonna
get to it
die
since
fighting.
they've been trying to get to it since 1800s.
Right.
And they ain't got
And
to it
still
yet.
ain't got it
And
yet.
that's why Jeff Bezos is going to be the first trillionaire in 5 years.
Hello. That part.
And his
yeah.
ex-wife
part.
gonna keep on giving big money to
Okay.
HBCUs.
Yes, she is.
Just like Spelman.
We just waiting to see her pop up with a brother with dreads.
Blowing her back.
'Cause you know they go-
Nah, I think that's in the NDA. No,
That's when she gonna really push that plug. Cause she
Yeah.
laughing at all the money he make. Cause he make.
Yeah.
But I mean,
No.
Bryce said that's another topic.
Yeah,
That's
Well, speaking of topics of relationships,
Uh-oh. Here we
you
go.
know, I've been put on to this brother about a month ago.
I should have wore my black suit, my white tie, man.
The new age go.
Yeah, new age goat. A brother by the name of Kevin Samuels. He's become an internet sensation. As a kind of advice giver to pretty much women for the most part. But he does not discriminate.
Not
He
at
goes in on men, dealing with relationships and that type of thing. And I think the viral video was him going off on his woman. Yeah, she wasn't really attractive by the beauty standards. But he asked her, "What do you want in a man?" And so she's like, "Yeah, I want him 6 figures, tall, tall, like the checklist."
666.
Yeah, yeah, the 666.
The devil.
But he just kind of went in and just told her like, you know, you're not gonna attract that type of man. You're just not gonna do it. And he was very blunt, and you know, and it reminded me. Well, first thing it reminded me of this book that I've been working on for the past 5 years. But I've changed the format 3 times. And one, you know, I'm on one now. It was just a storyline.
I stopped giving deadlines.
Right.
He ain't the only one I'm the same with.
But
No
my,
deadline.
you know, but my when I first wrote it, it was literally based in not a rebuttal, but just another point of view to Steve Harvey's book.
Right.
You know, and I just call my running title is The Chauvinist Guide to Understanding Women. And so, but like, it made me think about that because the male chauvinist, in essence, is the one man that women hate, but they love because he makes it so simple, it's inarguable. You know, and so, you know, and he uses, and the male chauvinist tends to use a woman's rhetoric, not necessarily against her, but to argue her point, argue the point that she shouldn't be in these positions, so to speak. And so I'm putting a question out there, you know, and I'm asking, is people like Kevin Samuels good for the culture? Because, you know, we all know that he can, you know, a person like him and what he represents can be quite controversial, especially to independent women, especially independent black women, you know, because, you know, he brings out the notion that their success has something to do with their inability
To get a man. Hold a man or whatever.
To hold a man, keep a man, or whatever, you know, and he makes that very apparent, you know, and he makes no apologies about it. So he's very controversial, but I always ask the question, is somebody like that good for the culture?
I watched one of the clips of the 40-year-old nurse.
Yeah.
That was looking for me.
So one lady, look, baby, what you are? You a 7 or 8? She was like, I'm a 7. You got kids? I got 1 kid, baby dad drama. That man you want, you're not on his level.
Yeah. But the last one, Maya and I were watching, and, you know, he was telling this woman, you know, it's like, well, in order for you to have a man, I forgot what you called him, a ready-made man or something like that.
Oh yeah.
Self-made man, or, you know, something like that. Man who had all his issues together.
Okay.
Yeah, she basically wanted to be kept.
Right, she wanted to be
And
kept.
she was looking for that guy.
Okay.
And so he was like, do you understand that, you know, the task that you're going to have to deal with being a wife of a man, you know, who's had all his issues together? He's like, no, you're going to have to keep your body right. You're going to have to cook, clean, you know, you're going to have to take care of the babies, and you have to give him no flack.
And you have to be nasty.
Right.
Right.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
Spit the
truth.
Lord.
Oh yes.
You know,
this is true.
And I was like, it was very blunt. And I know half of the women who are watching this are not going to get it. Mainly because of how he said it, not what he said. And so, you know, but I was like, I said, but I got kind of excited. Because, you know, we need these type
Y'all
of...
must have talked about that all night.
Oh, yeah.
But no, I'm an alpha female, so I actually agreed with what he said. Because women really, you have many of them that believe they want that man until they're there, and they miserable. Because you're not gonna see him. You're not gonna see him. That's the reality. They either gonna be committed to their work, because you want the lovely house, you want the cars, you want all of these things. You're not gonna see him, and when you do see him, keep your mouth closed. What Chris Rock said? Fuck me and shut the fuck up. Fuck me, feed me, and shut the fuck up.
I remember
That's just what it is.
I seen him on a platform one time with a guy, and they was talking about, what I like about him, he talks about things that I call stuff, but you can't talk about this because it's offensive when it comes down. Yeah, it's taboo. And he talks about women with their weight. And he said, man, 4 out of 5 women are obese, and they're content with the fact that I'm obese, I think I look good, and if you tell me something about my weight, you're offensive. And the whole time his theory was, I'm not trying to make you feel bad about your weight, but if you know it's not healthy, you should be at a more healthier weight that suits your body.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, how can you want this perfect man, but your figure, your weight is a problem? Because and from what I'm paraphrasing, from what I got from his thing is, if you don't care about your own health, what makes me think you're gonna care about mine?
Yeah.
But I think he's good for the culture because he's making men step their game up and behold themselves accountable and showing women
As
that,
well
hey,
as
this
women.
is the type of man you want. This is what you have to be. This type of woman you have to be. And you can't be that type of woman. You can't get this man.
Yeah.
And I agree with that. I think it's kicks. I like his approach because sometimes that's necessary.
It is.
We've gotten to this point where everything is powder puffed.
Right.
Like you say, you dance around the issues and you dance around the
Instead of
topics,
just
and
really
you're
putting it
concerned
out there.
about not being canceled or being inappropriate. And he's straight up with it. And that aspect of it, I think, is very appreciative. Because one of the, I'm married 20 years now.
Yeah.
And you talking about somebody who never thought he would get married. You know what I'm saying? And I'm happily married for 20 years, man. And like you say, you have those women who think they want X, Y, Z, but don't understand what comes along with that. Or they think because their girlfriends have told them that the weave looks good, and the 6-inch eyelashes look good, and the fake nails look good, and all the makeup look good. So their girlfriends have told them that, but they're not thinking it from a male perspective.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Because men are not really.
So then you want to dog a brother because that doesn't excite him or that doesn't turn him on, after the first or second encounter. So those are the things that I appreciate about him, and as someone with 3 daughters also, and 2 adult daughters at this juncture, I have these conversations with my daughters when it comes to like independence and self-respect and, what I'm saying, all these type of things. And the funny thing is, and not in the vulgar ways that he says things, but those are the conversations I have with my daughters.
Yeah, you have to though. I mean, you got to be honest, because if not you, then who? You don't want.
And that's when you get stepped on.
Exactly.
Because somebody on the street gonna be way raw than.
Oh
Yeah.
Yes.
And you have you have so many. Unfortunately, you have so many females who, they're dealing with issues of their own self-image. And self-love. Like I talk to my daughters all the time about self-love.
Oh, yeah.
If you don't love yourself, ain't nobody gonna love you. You can't run through the streets trying to find somebody to love you and make you feel better about yourself, because you can't figure out how to feel better about yourself.
Whether you're a size 16,
you
still
gotta love
you gotta
yourself.
love you.
You gotta love yourself.
Yeah, I said R.J. Stevens, the team and me.
Yeah.
Gotta love me.
And I appreciate those. I appreciate the way he comes across. In that way, because you know what, a lot of things that he says, and I, of course, I looked at a few more videos and stuff like that, but a lot of things that he actually talks about, the topics, are the same topics that become issues within relationships. It's what you begin arguing about.
Right.
It's the same thing.
The same thing.
So if you can be straight up and straightforward with
From
those
the
things.
beginning.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? It's like,
beginning.
and I have no problem saying it. She's going to eventually see it. The conversation with my wife and I had when we started dating. You know what I'm saying? Well, firstly, we were neighbors. Yeah. So she knew.
So she knew.
I mean, I had 2 kids already. She knew of my reputation, man. She knew me since high school.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? She knew of my reputation. But I was straight up in terms of certain things. I am this person. I have these wants, these yearnings, et cetera, et cetera. You know what I'm saying? I've never seen myself like settling down. So if I'm gonna settle down with somebody, here's my chalkboard of lit. You know what I'm saying? I mean, to be real with you. You know what I'm saying? And that was a big part of maturity. It's been a big part of, and again, we've been married 20 years. It's still a part of the evolution.
Right.
Because as humans, we still change.
Right.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Instagram is a mug.
Right.
Because
Yes,
now
it
you're
is.
looking at all these young ladies who, they work and,
And
it's
you're
like
all right.
I don't want to show you this
see.
picture, but
I was looking.
you know what I'm saying? And that's just like real world with us.
This is true.
So in those aspects, I think he's good
He really is good for the culture.
for the audience that.
That
I'm
are
trying to figure out
looking.
who the people. How do they find him? I mean, does he have a website? How do they?
No, actually, he just started posting videos, right?
I follow him on
posting
Instagram. Then I
videos.
started following him on YouTube. But what I think I like about him is that for me, it shows me that the stuff that I require and my wants and my needs, I don't feel bad expressing them anymore. Because I had women where I told them like, this is why type of woman I like. This is what I like. They used to try to make me feel bad because they feel as though, well, I don't fall under that category. I'm like, well, that's cool because I'm not looking for you to fall into this category because I'm not looking for you as the woman to be the woman for me. And but my thing is, my issue. I don't know to be on subject or not, but certain women would sit up there and be like, well, you know what? This is what I like for a man. Cool. I may not fall into your category. That's cool. But this is what I like from a woman. They get offended, but it's like if I'm not the man you're seeking, or you're trying to like fit in the category,
try to put me in
what
that
does
box.
what I like got to do with you?
Yeah.
And I like watching him because from what I'm getting from him is like he's making it seem like, hey, it's not a problem what you like and what you like. You just have to be prepared and structure yourself to be that person for that.
If that's what you
it kind
want.
of makes me want to step my game up a whole lot.
And one of the things that my wife, mentioned earlier on in our relationship, and I've never forgotten this, and we still come back to it, and that is that you can't make a person be who they're not. You can try as much as you want.
as much as you
and I'm
want.
gonna tell you again, 20 years, they got shit I'm still hammering. You know what I'm saying? But it's like, it's like I want this, man. But it's like but it always, when we have these conversations, she and I, it still comes back to that fact you can't make a person be
who they're not.
You know? So like, my wife was the youngest of 4 kids. Like, there's a big age difference between her and her siblings. I mean, like 12 or 13 years or some shit like that. You know what I'm saying?
So, yeah.
And she had a brher who, like the whole family just like, he was a man whore as a child, as a boy. You know what I'm saying? So her brother taught her like certain things. You know what I'm saying? He gave her this armor.
Right, yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
So it was hard to kind of break that.
So and for me it's like I don't want that armor.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? That armor
I
isn't
don't want
benefiting me.
benefit.
You know what I'm saying? So how do
need
we
to
start
take that
peeling
off.
those layers back? You know what I'm saying? But that thing of you can't make a person be who they're not.
Right.
And for me, that has been, I've seen that as the evolution. And that's probably what has allowed us to coexist as long as we have, because it's working towards that. I want you to be the
this.
person. Yeah, you know what I'm saying? And, we constantly
Little
peel
by
the layers
little,
back. And she peels my layers back. She made me a much better person, etc. But going way back to, it's like, I travel the world. I'm on stages almost every night. I got my pick of the litter from any female in there, whether she married or not married, so and so and so.
Yeah.
So what's gonna make me come home to you at the end of the night?
Right.
Honestly, when we first started kicking it, it was like that has to be very important for you.
It's very important.
Because you can't expect me to be on 20 at a performance, and again, got my pick of the litter, everybody drunk, everybody feeling good. Then I come home at 2 o'clock in the morning, 3 o'clock in the morning, and you're on the sofa sleep.
Right.
Right.
Because next week,
Right. I'm not gonna come home.
I'm gonna hang out a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
and that was real. And it was a big part of our growth as a couple. Honestly, it was real.
Yeah, because you have to find that balance and understand.
And I think he's saying that, and he's putting those things out without people having to say, let's invest in it. And then try and make it. But as he admit, he's divorced twice.
Right.
So he's giving away a lot of good info, but apparently,
right, it hasn't worked for him, or he just realized. I look at it as or maybe he just realized that, okay, who I am, and the women that I chose, so to speak, are just not compatible, and we just can't. We're not going to get to that level.
Or that chauvinistic side can't be shut off.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
That's kind of how I took it, and that's the counter of everything we just said. Where it's like, okay, he's good for the culture in these ways.
Yeah, because relationships are about compromise.
Yeah.
At some point.
But apparently, he doesn't have the
he's
ability
not.
to compromise when it comes to that chauvinistic
Exactly.
aspect of it.
And it probably
Let
is
me
like
ask you
a
this.
throwing
Do
in
y'all
the
think
south.
that's part of his gimmick?
Yeah.
It could be.
No, I mean, actually, that's his angle.
Right.
Like, to me, that's his angle. Is and that's why I'm like, that's why I believe he's good for the culture, because his angle that he's coming from is what's making him the sensation that he is.
Right.
And that's the controversy also.
Right.
And controversy sells.
Yeah, because he's having
course.
those discussions that nobody wants to have
No,
or
he
afraid
had
of.
that
you
dude
know?
on that dude. He had a dude on the show. He asked that dude, "Now tell me this, bro. Is your dick big?" I was like, "Whoa!" I never seen a man
Yeah,
with a
it's just straight
face
up like
ask
that.
another
Just
man
straight
that.
up, like-
And he was just like telling him like, "Nah, that means a lot because women. That's what women want."
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And that's why I respect him about not only he hold women accountable, but he hold men
Men
accountable, too.
Let them know. Like, and then when I watched the interview he did with somebody, and he was giving tips. He was like, "Well, you know what? If you're a man in your 20s and you want to step your game up, like if you got a job, go find another job, then try to find you a skill set to make more money." Do this, do that. He was giving the game out for black men to better themselves, so he won't be making excuses and hold themselves accountable.
The conversation I had with my son and his best friend was assets and liabilities.
Yeah.
I
Right.
said, you are the very first asset. The more value you add to you, the less likely it is you're going to want a liability.
Right.
Yeah.
Right? So you're going to make better choices
Yeah.
in the women, the jobs, the
Your
careers,
friends.
the friends. You know what I'm saying? So, and of course that goes in one and out the other, but for teenagers. But I'm hoping that it got somewhere in there where it sank in. Because if I had somebody to tell me that, there'd be a lot of changes.
Yeah.
You know, versus, and I think that's what it is for a lot of people, though. If you don't have that one person, whether it's an elder of some sort, to tell you these things, those life lessons and what to do and what not to do, I really think things would be different, even from the men we choose, the women we choose, the
Right.
career choices, you know, where we want to live. I mean, down the line.
It makes a difference.
It makes a big
with
difference.
my older girls, when they were, 18, 19, we began talking about credit. Having your credit. They both had bank accounts, So my second oldest is in New York. We talked about credit and stuff like that. The girl has like 750 credit. She lives in her own apartment. She has a great job. You know what I'm saying? She's dating a guy who she actually went to college with, who's from New York, and he's a teacher and a social worker.
Okay.
He lives with his parents.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And nothing against any of that.
Yeah,
but the
but-
fact of the matter is, you got your shit together.
Right.
So that's gonna make. Firstly, he's thinking about that every step of the way.
It's gonna make
because
him step his game up.
you don't need him for anything. You know what I'm saying? Everything you need, you got
You
it.
got it.
And then you got the family support on top of that. My oldest girl, she's been married right at a year now. Right? We told her not to, but hey, sometimes you gotta
Sometimes
learn.
you gotta learn, yeah.
So she's been married right at a year. Her son just turned 3 months yesterday, as a matter of fact. But we still have that same conversation. Yeah, you married.
you married,
Y'all
but-
can have that joint account, but you need to have
But
your
you
own
need to have
account.
it.
Right.
What's your credit score? You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Y'all have the call. Y'all have a call, but get your own call.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And essentially what that means is, push come to shove at any time. But also, as we speaking about with the gentleman, with the guy, you have your own accountability.
Right.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Exactly.
So there's nobody that can push you
Push
around.
you around.
Because you can handle your own.
Exactly.
I
You
don't
don't
need
have
you to
to
rent a
say-
car for me. I got my
Yeah, I
own
got my
goddamn
own.
credit. I got my own account. You know what I'm saying? And I think as parents,
Look,
these are
we
things
talk
that
about
we
it
have
all
to
the
teach.
time.
We have
We
to
do.
teach our kids, especially our female kids.
This
We
is
have
true,
to teach them
'cause
these
I swear
things.
I wish I had half of the knowledge I have now. I wish someone had told me early on, because there would have been a lot of changes and things I would have, better decisions. Also, why I have one child. I learned. I learned. I mean, there's nothing. I love kids, but once you make that mistake, you can't say, "Oh, my second and third one was a." That's not a mistake, baby. You made that decision.
Yeah, you were conscious of that.
Yeah.
Well, semi-conscious.
Right. Yeah, but I think that's what makes his advice, so what's the word? Strong. Because these are what he's saying is basically the principles that our grandparents learned because it was a simpler time. Now we're in a complex time, a more complex time frame, just era. Whereas that, women's empowerment is at an all-time high.
Right.
And so just the idea of any type of submission is not necessarily foreign, but it's literally frowned upon, so much so that you can't even be in a relationship with a man because you don't understand what his role actually is.
And that's why I agree with you in saying that he's good for the culture.
Yeah.
Right.
And he's good for the culture because there's time that where, you know, again, back to what we talked about before, the Twitter, you know, the 60 seconds of information.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? How much can be learned in 60 seconds?
Right.
You know, and that's what he's doing. He's like just saying all these things very matter of factly. It's not a 300-page book like Steve Harvey. You know, he's not saying read his book and come back in 2 months.
In
Let's
2
talk
months
about
and
it.
let's-
You know,
yeah.
let's get this shit right here in this TikTok video.
Real quick.
Let's have this
Real
conversation.
quick.
And I think it's important because what you're saying, you know, when I was at the university, and even in some other aspects of my professional life, you're working with a lot of females, you know, and that whole cancel thing, that whole say the wrong thing, and that whole independence thing, you know, and again, not understanding the historiography of that false sense of black female independence, which had nothing to do with independence. It had everything to do with breaking the black family up and making you hate the black man. But that's another topic. But you know, they have this sense of, like you say, this sense of independence. But the thing is when you break the shit down, all of them by themselves.
Yeah.
None of them in relationships.
Yeah.
None of them can
Majority of
maintain a
them.
relationship with a man.
Right.
You know what I'm
Because
saying?
they don't know how to be.
they're
They don't
so strong.
understand that it's okay to make the 6 figures and cook the food and watch the kids and do all of those things at home, but still allow your man to be the king of the castle.
And understand that.
And understand that. Whether he makes $6,000 or $600,000, he's still a man. Allow him to be the king. If he's deserving of it, though. Because then some of them will play wife with the boyfriend. You know what I'm saying? And put it all into the wrong person. So that's another discussion. But they often do. You know what I'm saying? They'll put their time, that energy, and then they get mad, and that's when they flip the script. Now they just
I'd be
strong.
I'd be in an environment. I'm that person, you know, like, you know, there was a sister, I'm not gonna say her name. She works at a very, 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 very well-known university, Rutgers. And she's like this black Twitter queen when it comes to like this black, you know, femdom.
Okay.
Is that, am I saying it right? Femdom. You know, just this black female equality. and
Yes,
strength.
I'm
Yeah,
here
you know,
and I'm on it.
And we worked at the University of Alabama together. And you know what I'm saying? It got to this point where I was like, you know, we'd be on these different committees together, and these different conversations, et cetera. And I asked her for lunch. I was like, man, let's go to lunch. I'm that
wanna
person.
pick that-
I'm
let
a
me
picker.
pick that brain.
I will talk to anybody and ask any question.
Yep.
That is me. I was like, man, so we went to have lunch or whatever, and you know, I'm asking these questions. You know what I'm saying? You dating? You know, she's not dating nobody. She lives by herself. She ain't got a dog. She ain't got a cat. You know. Nothing. You know, and then you're looking at her friends and the people she associated with, and all the people who's liking all her tweets and all this kind of stuff, blah, blah, blah. And at the end of the day, what it boiled down to, you lonely and miserable.
Right.
Yeah.
You strictly lonely and miserable. And the only thing you got in your life that gives you a sense of affirmation is your title, your degree, and Twitter.
Right. That reminds me of somebody who I knew who they met before who Charmaine name. Listen. But I think there's certain women like that, they learn that from their moms.
In broken backgrounds also. The moms in broken shit. You know.
It is. That's
It really is,
literally that's literally where that comes from. Now, I don't normally, agree so much so with this brother, but he does throw a couple of things out there, to be like, okay, all right, I can give you some credit, some of the times. A clock is right twice a day.
Right.
But it's, this a certain Pan-Africanist, who has aspirations of building his own school. But, he put out a number of things out there that just say, that like he understands the fact that the black family is at the center of the, just the all of the negative stereotypes literally come from the breakdown of the black family.
Right.
Now, I believe that the rise of feminism helped in that and it helped in that certain thing. Not that I'm like just anti-feminist, but I understand that, in order for, a man to feel or a man to be the king of his castle, his woman has to understand, where she is,
Right.
and that having that power, so to speak, it doesn't, it really doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter at the end of the day.
But that, not to cut you off, but that becomes a part of the problem with the messenger. And I'm glad you used that, brother, for
Right.
example. I'm always trying to figure out why he always videoing from hotel rooms.
You're right.
You know what I'm saying? But that's just me. That's just me. You know?
It's very interesting.
That's just me. That's just who I am.
Thanks to Paula for a $20 gift.
Yeah. That's just me. But that becomes the problem with the messenger. Because it's great to have those historical or those historiographies that can let us know this is where these breakdowns started, this is why is this that. But at the same time, you're not being the example of the wealth of information you have, because you ain't got the family.
Right.
Exactly.
You ain't got the woman.
Right.
We ain't never seen you with a woman.
Exactly.
We ain't never seen you with the children. We ain't never seen your Twitter pictures with you and the family at the zoo and petting the dolphin. You know what I'm saying? And swimming with the alligator and on a ride at Disney World and shit. At the 45-second mark. You know what I'm saying? We ain't never seen that. And that's the same thing going back to the brother. What's his name? Kevin.
Kevin Simon, sure.
Same thing going back to him. That's my other side of that coin is we have to be careful with who the messenger is and what that messenger represents. Because if you tell me that you've been divorced twice. Homie, there ain't shit you can tell me about a relationship, or especially a marriage.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
You can tell me what not to do.
You can tell me what not to do and what caused you in both of them situations.
Yeah.
But homie, I'm on I-10 doing 85 miles per hour going towards 21 years. You know what I'm saying?
You be like, no, you can't hear me. I'm in this thing.
We strapped in tight, so you know what I'm saying. And I think that is, when it comes to the culture, I think that's something that we have to be careful of, is that we understand who the messenger is, and we decipher those messages. We take away the takeaways. We take away the knowledges that we feel can benefit us, but we don't need to take it all.
Oh, exactly.
We don't need to take it all in.
Exactly.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Right, yeah, exactly.
It's
Yeah,
like
you
take
right.
the pieces you can relate to and build from them.
Yeah. No, nobody reads a 300-page book and remembers every
And
page.
remember, exactly.
You
take all of the
You
pertinent
take your
information.
you take your pertinent information
Yeah.
and you roll with it,
Right.
and then you can give that synopsis. But you can't tell me what the hell was on page 261 though, because the shit wasn't.
Because it wasn't.
Right.
So I think that's just, and that's where the culture, like last week, last episode we talked about like white privilege, and we talked about the millennials and having all that sense of they know everything.
Right, yeah.
We also have to be careful of the messenger, the message, what we're trying to get from it. You know
what it seemed like to me is like Steve Harvey walked so Kevin Samuels could fly.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a good one.
Realtors, do you need some special aerial photography or video footage? Or maybe you need some stock footage of the city for your presentation? Or maybe a beautiful shot of a landmark just to hang on your wall? Well, time for you to check out DM NOLA Shots. They are a drone photography and videography company established in New Orleans who specialize in capturing aerial 4K video and photo. Check out the website at www.dmnolashotsllc.com or follow us on social media at DM NOLA Shots on Instagram and Facebook. DM NOLA Shots.
All right, we're back. And the next thing that we want to talk about is actually one of Irv's ideas, and he's going to put it out there.
All right, y'all ready?
Yeah.
All right, I had this theory called the Nino Brown theory. Now, you remember in New Jack City where G Money was on the basketball court, shot, swish. He was like, yeah, that dumbass shit. So he went to the car, and he brought up to Nino about telling him about his experience with selling crack to somebody. He was like, this is the new thing. Had the meeting with the whole CMB, broke down then the scene, the most epic scene. Damn, crack. The Nino Brown theory is everybody came together to help Nino come up with this plan to sell the drugs. But the thing complex Nino had was the world is mine. It's all mine. It's all me. I did this. And it was like, Nino, you didn't do this by yourself?
Till he was on a stand.
Right. I'm going to get to that. I'm like, hold up. G-Money brought you the idea. Yeah, you know, you was the leader of the CNB, but your brother brought you this idea. And then the next thing you know, before he killed G, G was like, man, he said, what happened to us? He said, this is my world. It's all me. You didn't do this by yourself. Like, take accountability of the fact that, hey, you had your team help you do this. So everything can't be Nino Brown, but then when it was time to go down, I'm bringing everybody down with me. But when I'm going up, it's me by myself.
Yeah.
Me.
That's why I feel like, and I noticed that with certain people where it's like you help certain color folks with projects. Yeah, you probably be like the face of it, but at the end of the day, you still have to acknowledge that the fact that you didn't do this by yourself. So, but then when it goes down, when it's time to hold people accountable. Oh, it's your fault. But then when we up, me.
It's all me. Yeah.
Right. That's why I call it Nino Brown theory.
I think there's
That's one of the. Well, to be honest with you, that's one of the 48 laws of power. Take all the credit, never take the blame.
Right.
You know, so it's just it's an ideal. It's an ideal that has stood the test of time. You know, like the greatest of the great have used that same method. You know, and I know I get flack for this shit all the time, but I'm gonna say it. Michael Jordan is not Michael Jordan without Scottie Pippen. That's just plain as day. When we saw Michael Jordan as a wizard, you know, all he's doing is fussing at everybody.
Right.
You know, he won 6 championships with Scottie Pippen. You know, did he take some of the reins himself? Yeah, of course. You know, he's still Michael Jordan.
Right.
I'm gonna give him all that credit. But you know,
Scottie was on that side.
it was the tandem. Yeah, it was the tandem. You know, and that this is your number 2 guy. Because if he wasn't here, he would basically go on the top list of top 10, 15, 20 basketball players ever to play the game. You know? So it's like he was only shadowed by you. You know? Like that type of thing. So I think it's just kind of a thing, but like I said, but Michael Jordan's gonna get all the credit.
Right.
He got the shoes. You know, everybody wanted to wear his shoes. They didn't want to wear Scottie Pippen shoes.
Right.
I get it.
I want to be like Mike.
Right, I want to be like Mike.
Made in the same factory.
Man, made in the same factory. Made in the same factory.
Same factory.
Bill Gates is another one. You know, I forgot the name of his friend who helped him develop Windows. You know, and in the beginning, they were all good and everything else. Bill Gates got a little greedy. You know, that's when we start to see Windows, the bugging of Windows.
Right.
You know, that's when we started to see the bugging. So guess what? Now we're just we're in a pickle. But I think in a lot of times what happens, especially like in the movie, Nino Brown meets his fate.
Right.
You know, from the most unlikely of sources.
Right.
You know, because nobody thought that this man, you know, who was just about good, and you know, all he wanted to do was get the kids into a program and off the streets and not around
Right.
dope boy, the one to actually take him out.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Idolater, your soul is required in hell. I love it because, you know, when you see people who have that complex, they do not see the karma that is going to come back to them. Because they're going to, you know, if they would understand it, you know, from anybody, they would think that would become from that same person. Your karma does not come from the person that you've dealt with bad vibes to.
Right.
You know, so I just think it's just through the test of time, we've all had, you know, it's like the Nino Brown, the character, you know, the person that Nino Brown represents,
Right.
has always been there. And they've always been big dog. They've always made a whole pile of money. They've always done, you know, like they've always had the success, so to speak. It's just that because they didn't acknowledge, you know, their team, they didn't acknowledge the person that came up with the idea. They didn't acknowledge the person that, you know, they met their fate.
And they never really won.
Right.
Right.
Yeah. They never really
Never
win.
really win.
Right,
They
you
enjoy some of the ride, but they never really win.
Right.
Right.
You know, my wife constantly tells me that, you know, as a business person and as a band leader, etc., that I don't have that Nino Brown complex, and that's my downfall. It's because I don't.
Don't
you
have.
know,
Right.
Because I'm the empathetic
I
cat.
tell him.
Right.
We
I'm the
talk
empathetic,
about
you know,
it.
it's
We
like-
used to have those kind of
Yeah, you know, it's
conversations.
like no matter how much I can get on the stage and like hype the crowd or do what I do, but I still need the drummer. To give me the beat.
Right.
And I still need the bass player
Player.
to give me the groove.
Right.
And I still need the sax player to play that sexy ass sax solo while I'm doing my, you know what I'm saying? And I need the trombone player to take the solo because my lips
'Cause your
tied
lips-
because I've been doing my, you know what I'm saying? So I need all these other people. So I can't just shit on them
and not give them.
and not give them some clout and some credit because I can't do anything
do
without them unless I'm a DJ.
Yeah.
Right.
And it's not a DJ gig.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And my wife and I really have to, because, she's kind of like my business consultant because she doesn't really give a damn.
Yes.
You know what I mean? But she don't give a damn. It's not
Yeah.
her career. She's not
Yeah,
an
she's
artist.
not an artist. Yeah.
So for her, it's just like, how'd you do?
Right.
How was it? How much you made?
Right.
Zip.
Sound like somebody.
Zip. I ain't concerned about nothing else. You know what I'm saying?
That's it.
So yeah. So I don't know. And I think I don't know.
No. You have.
The theory is on point.
On point, yeah.
But it's like I think it's a psychological thing for the individuals who can find
can
themselves
find
saying,
Right.
and we know people personally, who can say, I'm willing to just like,
Chop 'em
pimp you, shit on you while I'm up here, while I'm climbing, and it is
Everybody
all
forget
me,
about
me,
the
me,
pyramid.
me, me. I got a big bang with 26 people, but it's me.
But it's
You know
right,
what I'm saying? I can do that. It's me. Ain't nobody else really matter. You know what I'm saying? But then all of a sudden when the feds get the information and you're looking at the news and all of a sudden now you're seeing, oh, that was 6 trombone players. Oh, they got paid $20 a piece for that gig. It's like, it's like now all of a sudden everybody information out there,
Right.
this is where the money was going. I was
Right.
paying these cats so and so and so.
Right.
But I don't know. But I guess
Well,
I don't really
it's-
understand it, so there's not much I can say to it.
Well, no, I believe that you do understand it.
Well, I understand it, but I don't.
It's just that it's just one of those things that it might be just us as musicians, who actually care. As we were talking about in the last episode, we care about the culture. We care about whether or not, Wino Larry, he can play trombone. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Rhino Larry, but he can play trombone. So we're gonna find a way to make sure that they can play trombone. You can deal with all of that vinyl stuff on your own. But we're gonna make sure, look, I'm gonna find a way. I'm gonna pay you out of my own pocket to make sure that you're gonna play trombone.
play.
And everybody, and at least you have something, to look forward to instead of just the bottom.
I think I get it from my dad too. So my dad grew. My dad built hot rods. So I grew up around the car culture. You know what I'm saying? And like our yard on a Friday, Saturday,
Right.
was him and his friends building cars and shit. The guy who lived across the street on the corner, he had the paint shop. So built the cars at our house, our space, pushed the car across the street, and that's where the car got painted.
Right.
But it'd be my dad and all his friends. You know what I'm saying? Because my dad didn't paint.
Right.
My dad built engines.
Right.
My dad didn't build transmissions. My dad didn't do suspension.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So he needed all those other people
Yeah.
to get a project done.
Right.
So again, it's my truck,
Right.
but it's our
Our
project.
Right.
But you just made me realize something. That is what happened to the black community. That is what happened to the black community because the community. I like to use the lower Ninth Ward as a perfect example because, the brick mason built the carpenter's. Put the foundation on the carpenter's house. The carpenter, put the framed out the brick mason's house. And so like you build the community on not necessarily a system of bartering, but just like we have the same common goal.
Right.
And so if I make a little less money, bartering with you to do something else, that's fine.
That's fine.
That's totally that's totally fine. So I'm like, good. That's a wonderful, thing. And I think somewhere along the line, it became less about we,
Right.
and it became about me. Get money, get money, get money.
Every man for yourself.
Every man for themselves. I don't care how you eat. You know, but I'm gonna eat regardless.
But that brings us back to what you said, Drew. We're a capitalistic country.
Yeah.
Bring it back to that.
You know, but and not to sound like a militant black man, but the white folks don't do it like that.
No.
They'll you know, now they're still very what's the word?
Selfish. Selfish.
Yeah, savage, if you will. You know, when it comes to them making the money.
Right.
But for them to create the neighborhood, for some reason they're now of like minds. And they built this totally brand new community. Everybody has a $300,000 house, you know,
Because they know it's bigger than
$400,000.
them when it
Asian.
comes down to the community.
And when it come down to the community, like I said, I hate to sound like just a black militant, but that's just what happens.
Right.
You know, and that's what we've lost, and I believe we lost it a generation ago. You know, because I remember I always tell a story. I remember one time when Maya came home, and you know she was just kind of flustered. She was just on the verge of just like being mad, and you know, and I was
Maya
like,
or Jemaya?
yeah, Jamaya, the New Orleans way, Jamaya. You know, but she came home, and I'm like, baby, what's wrong? You know, it's like, you know, she said I had a conversation with a good friend of mine, and you know, she was just, and he was asking, like, you know, Drew, he's a musician. Is that all he does?
I remember you telling me about that.
Yeah, is that all he does? You know, and she's like, yeah, like, you know, but she's like, I got a little offended, you know, and but I was like,
always taking up quick.
yeah,
I'd be like, well, what you mean? What you mean?
you know, but he had to like stop her and say, no, I've never seen, you know, and I don't know of anyone who's just a musician. That's all they do.
Yeah.
And so it, you know, but I told her, I said, you know, but a generation ago, you know, our parents, you know, a lot of them, the majority of them had the mentality of, you know, we just have to do what we need to do. So go to school, get your degree, get your nice government job.
Get a job.
Get a nice government job.
That was
you
the
know,
thing
with
to
some
do.
with some benefits.
Right.
You know, make sure your baby's teeth get fixed, and you know, in 30 years you can do whatever you want.
A government job, nursing job, or
yep.
teaching.
Right.
Yep.
Right.
Firemen,
Yeah.
police officers. Yeah.
Exactly.
Those were the jobs to look up to.
And so I say, you know, but it made perfect sense to me, you know, when we were just sitting there talking about it. It's like the mentality is still get money, or you know, do the you know what I call the safe route. Well, you know, for the safe route for a lot of people, it's just I'm gonna just do this for 30 years.
Get a job. Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
and I
'Cause it
tell
was security.
and I tell
you know,
and I tell a lot of young
it
people,
was
I'm like, there's
worthy
nothing
at
wrong
one
with that.
time. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And I tell them there's nothing wrong with that because, you know, you have a plan. You execute that plan. You know, now so if you want to wait 30 years, you just wait 30 years. You know, make sure you just get a house with some nice value, and you know, like, you know, and when you're ready to go, you get that, you
That
know, you
RV.
can take that money, get that RV,
Yeah,
get
see,
that money
that-
big.
'cause that's my retirement
and you
plan.
can travel the world for the next
But
30 years.
RV.
But very few, and even our own family and parents, very few of them get to that point.
Right.
And I used to always have this conversation with my dad, God rest his soul, and with my mom, to the point where I became kind of, what you say, bucking against them.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, because I was, again, like you said, we're that generation.
Yeah.
You know, just go to college. What's your major? No, I don't get what you major. Just get a
Right.
job.
Just get a job.
Once you graduate, get a job.
And don't
You
come
know?
here, don't
Go to
come back
school,
here.
get
Yeah,
a
don't come
job.
back here. Just get a job. And that was my only goal. I'm gonna get a job.
I'm gonna get a job.
You know?
That's it.
But eventually, as I, you know, saw my parents getting older, you know, they did the vacation thing, so and so. But as they're getting closer to that point where it should just be pure retirement, now you're dealing with high blood pressure.
Right.
Yeah,
You,
all
you
of the.
had 2-3 little mini heart attacks. You had,
Right.
So I say that to say, in that
All
process
those
of that
stresses.
35 years, your body getting beat up, going to that job, you know, slaving for
Stress.
that funding. You're stressed out. You know what I'm saying? The neighborhood that you bought in, that you invested in, that neighborhood then passed you
Passed
by.
you by.
Right.
So it didn't turn into Lakeview.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? All your friends and your neighbors who were able to, they got the hell out
They
that
got out.
neighborhood.
Yeah.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So now you stuck with this house that really ain't
Ain't got no value.
ain't got no value. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And the kids don't want it. By the time you done paid it off, the kids don't want it when they're grown.
You didn't know much about your 401k. So you got screwed time and time again. Every time the market went up or down. So what you think you got in your 401k, you ain't got your 401k.
Yeah.
You know, so you deal with all these different circumstances.
Right.
And by the time you get to that point of retirement, those 30 years are by, you're too ill to do anything. You can't.
You can't
enjoy life.
You can't enjoy life. You know what I'm saying? You ain't going to swim with the dolphins in Jamaica. You ain't going to get on the roller coaster. You know, your heart. You got a heart condition.
Ain't gonna be fun. No more.
You know what I'm saying? I remember my
You got a
dad
heart
had
condition. You got the gout. You got.
I remember
Your
my
gout can't flare up at the amusement park.
I remember my dad when my dad had his stroke in 2010. And then, eventually, he started getting better, whatever. But he never really put himself forth in terms of like the exercise to really recover that strength. And one day we were in Mississippi, in Columbus, at the properties out there. And I never forget this thing, man, because we went to Walmart for something. My dad was crying because I was like literally fussing, like, "Come on, bro, walk up, man." Shit. Right. You know what I'm saying? He know he can't. He's
trying to come.
Man, walk up, man. He went to crying and shit in the car. Man, if I can get it back, blase, blase, blase. I said, Dad, man, I remember since I was in high school, you was talking about you wanted that Corvette. You gonna get that Corvette. You want that Corvette. Yeah. I say, nah, man, life didn't beat you up so much. You didn't went to work for these white folk every day. Yeah. Rain, sleet, snow, 20 degrees, 120 degrees. You know what I'm saying? And now life didn't beat you up. And I say, man, you don't even have the health capacity to be able to even get it. If you could afford the Corvette, you don't have the health capacity to drive the Corvette. Right. You know what I'm saying? I say, man, that's not what life is supposed to be about, man. You're supposed to enjoy life. You know what I'm saying? And that became a light bulb moment for me, which goes back to what we talked about when we coming back home. Right. The choices that I made professionally. Right. You know what I'm saying? There was an article I read this morning. A lady at is it Ithaca University, Ithaca University, something like that. Ithaca, is that how you say it? Ithaca, some shit like that. But she's been there 18 years. No. She's done all these things to help. She's an environmentalist and did all these things to help get all these grants and programs and all this stuff at the university. Blase, 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 blase. One provost come, this provost comes. So long story short, essentially, I don't know how it was an article, but essentially it was her resignation letter also. So went through all her accomplishments. Boom, 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 boom. And now because people don't believe in climate change, I don't think I have the support to be able to get the environmental center that we were trying to get, right? But her very last sentence, and she said, and to be transparent, my salary is $31,200. She's been there 18 years.
Are you serious?
18 years. $31,000 is what she's making.
Oh my God!
Now imagine how many millions of dollars she's helped that university get.
Yeah, right.
Oh my God!
You see what I'm saying?
Giving her even a raise.
31,000, and she's been there 18 years. But that's that mindset.
Yeah, it is.
That's that mind. Just get a seat.
The hamster wheel.
It don't matter how much you're getting. You know you're going to get it every 2 weeks. Or if you live in Alabama, you're going to get it once a month.
Right.
You see what I'm saying? Yeah. The Alabama system pay once a month. For the university system. Just to those people who don't know.
That's crazy.
Yeah, but $31,000. So imagine the truth of all the financial struggle and pain that her family went through.
Yeah.
You see what I'm saying?
That's
so
crazy.
Again, 18, where you going to get another job at?
Yeah.
Now, where you going to get a job that's suddenly going to pay you $120,000, what your value really is. Right. You know?
That's true.
And that's what we were taught.
Right, yeah.
Man, just put up with it.
Just deal with it.
Just deal with it.
Don't worry about it.
Go through it.
Get that job at the post office. After 35 years, you good.
Go on and retire. Go on and retire. You got benefits.
You know, how many stories do you read that, 6 months to 6 years after they retire, they dead? Yeah. They kill over.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Because that was what was keeping them going.
That's the only
thing.
And that's the sad aspect of it.
Yeah. That's why we gotta travel, do things while you're young.
Yeah. And you gotta enjoy it.
Don't do it later. Gotta do it now. Because I'm working on my RV right now. I'm working on my RV. Hello.
We sent pictures to the kids last week of the Corvette. We going to get this. Shit on y'all. We were talking about waiting till y'all graduate from high school. You know what?
Wait.
This last year they taught us too much. Baby, we going to get that Corvette.
Yep. Yeah, you got to live. You got to live.
Yes, sir. All right. I want to get on this last subject before we kind of end this because, I tried my best to keep it as short. So that it can still be, what's the word? people can still enjoy it. Spending 2 hours on the on the thing, yeah, I know sometimes
the topics be good.
yeah, the topics are good. The topics are good. So I'm touching on this topic because Maya and I always when I want Maya on the show, it's one of those things that we argue about every time we
First, I want to say that I congratulate the temperament that you all have. I mean, you guys are doing really good. I mean, it would be the complete opposite with Shanique and I. We just had dinner by friends Saturday night, and it's the complete opposite. My wife and I. You know what I'm saying? People be sitting like, wait, they sleep together? They really together? So I want to congratulate y'all. Y'all got a good temperament here.
She's good right now.
Good temperament.
She's good right now. When that alpha female kick in,
The ride home.
Yeah. I become a beta male real quick. But we always have this thing as a movie, Tyler Perry's Acrimony. It's like I said, the movie is just based in a couple. They got together. She was a senior in high school. He's like a freshman in college or something like that. Something like that. Her mom died and left her and her sisters, a bunch of money. And so, of course, the sisters are always going to look at him and be like, why are you with her? You with her? You with her because of the money? Da da da. Those antennas go up. So basically, he ends up meeting this other chick, and they fooling around. She finds out. She rams. They were in the trailer, like in the trailer, because he was living in the trailer, and so she rams the trailer with her car. As a result of
this a chick that he person was sleeping with.
No, the one that runs the car and is played by Taraji.
But
so she has like that split
personality.
personality.
Yeah, that's the lady. That's the lady. That's
the boo or his real.
That's
lady?
The boo.
Okay.
He gets caught with the boo.
Okay.
Yeah, he got caught with the side side piece. And so, she rams her car into the trailer. As a result, she becomes infertile. She can't have any children. So that's one aspect of it, But he had these aspirations because he had a battery that he was working on that would change, life in cars and everything forever. So that was the whole thing. So he always had this ambition. And so he put all of his time, money into that battery.
Drained her.
And wound up draining her. Wound up draining her in the process. And so, he would promise he'd get a job or, something like that. He never would, like he was just constantly working on this battery. So literally 18 years goes by, and they're in the same setup, same situation. And now the house is about to be foreclosed on, and so now we're seeing the residual effects of him not doing what he needs to do. And so he got to that point where he's working for his brother-in-law, working for the brother-in-laws, in their business. And he gets a call from the company that he had been trying to sell his battery to. So he, of course he messes up because he's, doing truck driving, he got the driving the meat and delivering meat and all that type of stuff. So he kind of slows in and takes a detour to the house, to get himself dressed to go make this presentation.
In which the lady who he cheated with, the young lady he cheated with early on, is the same one who works for the company that gets him the meeting. So, so they make him an offer for the battery, but it was literally a pittance. It was like what it was worth.
It was about like $100,000. They was gonna give him $200,000 or something like that, but he turned it down. He was like, "Nah, my battery's worth more than that. You're gonna make millions off this. So that pretty much became the last straw because now you done messed up the truck delivery route because the meat is spoiled and all that other stuff, and he lost the account to, now you were being given $200,000
and you turned that down.
And you turned it down. So of course now she's fed up. Now she's at that point, and her sisters are egging it on, of course. So now she's at that point. Get out, divorce. He takes a job as a busboy, just to the lowest of the low, and they force him to sign the divorce papers, that type of thing. Now, when we, part of that when that was happening, the chick that he slept with, that got out in trouble in the first place, she comes back into his life and she takes him in, and builds him back up and this type of other stuff. Later on, she decides to make another play for his battery, and hits the jackpot, $75 million. Okay. Here's the jackpot. So, everything's cool, and then, so he goes back to the ex-wife now, and of course she has that tension, still has that tension.
Why are you here?
Right, why are you here? And so he offers her, he gives her, he said, I bought the house back, and he wrote her a check for $10 million. He's like, I know this is not going to be repaired, but it's a start and that type of thing. So, she goes back to her sisters and gives them the 3rd degree and reads them the riot act, because I was the only one who believed in him, She goes to kind of go in with him because he always had this vision of the penthouse. And so she goes to that penthouse because they had been wanting that penthouse for 20 years.
And he promised her.
He promised her. In comes the other chick.
Who is
and they're
now
engaged.
The fiancé.
Yeah, who now is the fiance.
Okay. There's a lot of twists going on.
Oh yeah. It's
a really good movie.
It was one of those Tyler Perry movies that I'm like, all right, I can watch this over and over again, and we can have a discussion.
Right.
It's really good.
It ain't
really good.
It ain't Medea's. Because I can only watch it once and I'd be like, all right, yeah, I got it. So which sends her into a rage, this inner rage. And so now they're going back and forth, court stuff. Now she's stalking them. She even went to the store that the wedding dress, where the wedding dress was, and poured acid
on the dress.
on the wedding dress. She's going straight bone crazy.
But she got the house in the $10 million.
She got the house in $10 million, right? And so so basically it's just she goes so crazy that after they get married and they're on this boat that he promised to give her, named it the same thing and everything, the whole thing, So she just follows them there, and then that's where the fight scene comes in, and they're fighting and all that other stuff.
She shoots him, and
right? She shoots him, like all that stuff.
And
comes
then
in.
on top of that, I'm sorry, the fiance, well now the wife, she's pregnant.
Oh, another one could have get pregnant.
So that is like a whole nother mental,
right?
And I mean, Taraji played
the side chick essentially got the dream.
Exactly. That she put in all the work.
Yeah. But and the problem is when we talk about it, I'm like, here's the thing. It wouldn't have been the dream if the side chick hadn't taken him in.
Right.
Because that's what set all those things, in motion. And so now we come to, so that's where Maya and I come to an impasse, because we're like, go ahead, baby. You have an understanding of how she felt.
I'm not saying that she was right in her anger and expressing it the way she did.
Using the original wife.
Yes, the first wife. But when you put in the work, it's almost like at the casino, a slot machine. You putting in all of your quarters, You done fed this machine pretty much all your money. And then soon as you get up, whether it's to go to the bathroom,
the next person strike.
The next person put in 1 quarter and they didn't hit the jackpot.
Right.
You pissed by this time because you didn't put in all this work, all this money, all this effort. So I was trying to explain to Drew that it's not so much about the monies or those things, but he brought her almost to the end where she was tired, she was stressed out, took everything from her, including partly her fault, but she couldn't even bear kids, right? You didn't put in all this effort, all this energy into this man, And you be like, I be damn. The heifer that
She got
you done,
everything.
she gonna come and hit the jackpot. That's a problem. And so I was explaining to him that I understand both sides of it. You know what I mean? I know what it looked like where the side piece really wasn't the side piece at this point in life because they hadn't been together. She just happened to be the person that worked at the company he's trying to get in. But when you done put in all this energy and this effort and this money and your time, you like, hell no. I be damn another come and get all of the stuff I done work for. You know what I'm saying? That you promised me. So it wasn't even about that he gave her the money. It was just the principle that, no, you can't have what I put in the work for.
Yeah.
I did the groundwork. And so he's like, now she went
'cause
crazy.
You know why? And the only reason why I say that is because she got $10 million in her mama's house back.
Right.
But that's my point. It wasn't about
That's
the
when
money.
you mentioned, I
though.
was like, okay, well, she got something out the deal.
Yeah, she got something, but it was almost, it's like it wasn't even about the money. That emotional distress that she went through.
I'm not laying on the
I'm
yacht.
not
I'm not just watching the city skies escape from the penthouse.
But I done
window.
did all the ground where I was the field.
Yeah.
But I think
word.
well, part of it is for me is that men don't have the luxury of even having that type of frustration. You know, when it comes to men, especially men who've, put, amounts of money, it's like I'm already a ready-made man. You know, you came into my life and I elevated you.
Right.
I don't have that same type of woman. Don't do that.
You never had it.
I probably spoke too early about that.
Exactly. But no, it's just, we don't have that luxury of saying I put all this time and this effort and this, and I'd be damned if another man come and take what we don't. I mean, I just believe we don't have that type of luxury just because, that's not what a man is supposed to do. Maybe.
Well, I think y'all don't have the emotional investment to the degree of women. You know what I mean? We have more emotional.
Right.
Invest. Yeah, we emotional creatures, unstable creatures.
She said,
but
she said it, not us.
I see it from both sides, because like, I have a friend of mine, and he and his lady been, married for a good amount of time. They got a couple of kids, and things seem to have gone astray. She's gone back to school and become like a nurse practitioner, but they're divorced now.
Yeah.
Right. So she's living her life now, making that nurse practitioner money.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? And you can kind of see like both of their social media posts that they're like taunting each other.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So like, she posts stuff from like, she does travel nursing now. So she'll post stuff like, I'm in Illinois, I'm in New York, and he'll post stuff with like his new boo.
Right.
Trying
to hit that back. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I see it in that sense. I see it in a sense of like, again, I can just imagine, like I say, Nick and I have been 20 years, right? And we've both made sacrifices to help each other get that upliftment to the next space, know. But I could have just imagined that, 2 years from now, a year from now, we write I'm So New Orleans Part 2.
Right.
And it finally get that Grammy and, we get that $10 million Tyler Perry film deal and, something so and so and so and so and, Nick
Put
and I
it in
go
the
out.
universe.
You know what I'm saying? We go out now, but we're going our separate ways, you know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, well, baby, here's $2 million, but, you do the kids in college now, and I'm going to go do me. You know what I'm saying? And I can imagine if she saw me on the Grammys.
Yeah, and you'd be like, oh.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
So I see
that
it.
feeling.
I see it both. I see it both ways.
I mean,
Because I'm going to be on the Grammys. I
That's-
just want you to know.
I can put it out.
I mean, but that's not to say that I don't, but as I think that's why we always have the debate. We watch the movie like 2 or 3 times a year, and we have that debate every time. Each time, because I'm like, okay, where's the line? Where's the line between you being cool, or you being accepting and cool of, the way it is and what it is?
And I could see the man the man not understanding the emotionality of it, and which is the reason I asked was, oh wait, she got the 10 million and she got the house. Yeah. So from a man's perspective, it's like, be happy.
Yeah, you good.
You good.
Yeah, like
your investment return.
Yeah, you straight. Go get whatever. Go get your little boy toy, whatever you want.
Nah, I probably would have took it and been like, all right.
But it's, it's emotional thing. But like you're saying, it's like, it's the...
For her, it was that emotional distress she had.
That should be me.
Yeah, and then on top of that, now she's bearing the child that you couldn't have for him.
Yeah.
So that makes it, now you're talking about a whole nother level of emotions.
Yeah. Right.
I mean,
I know that's why I say I get it.
Now I wouldn't have went
like I said,
so far, but yeah.
That was one of the, like I said, that was one of the one Tyler Perry movies that I really liked.
I could see why it would be a plot that would like so many people could identify
with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And like I said,
it's really good.
It's
really a good movie.
Played the shit out the part.
She really did. She did an excellent job.
She's a crazy lady. I'm like, all right. And I like, it's like you played this part a little too well. Whereas I think you've it seems like you've been in this position
before. Huh?
Yeah, you've been in this position before.
That's why "Cheaper to Keep" is one of the most, one of the best blues songs out, man. You gotta listen to them lyrics, man. There's a lot of temptation out in them streets, man. I mean, there's a lot of temptation, and I tell folks, and again, I tell my older girls, we talk a lot on tour and stuff. Man, relationships is the hardest thing in the world.
It is.
Especially when you add the M to it, marriage.
Yeah.
It's the hardest thing in the world. I mean,
really
folk can make it look easy. It's the hardest thing in the world.
And I think it is hard. But I think the hardest is to continue to like each other.
Right.
Because, see, the Bible says to love one another. He ain't say nothing about I got to like you. Yeah. Okay? I ain't got to like it. Yeah. But, I mean, in all seriousness, it's hard to continuously like that person. Because I know he can't stand me at times.
I mean, you're
and I can't stand, but we still love, you know what I'm saying? We'll still go to back. But
you're essentially continuing to try to like you say, first, why do I like this person? Why do I still like this person? I have to stay around this person. Not like a friend is like, okay, bro, it's 10 o'clock. You can go ahead and go home.
Yeah, you can go ahead home. Yeah, like it's over.
Like, I'm going to see you next month. Let's play chess again. You know what I'm saying? Right. Let's play chess again in 2 months. Right. It's not that. You got to deal with the person's attitude. You got to deal with their ups and their downs. You know what I'm saying? Their health issues. Every aspect. You can't run from it. You know what I'm saying? And it's like,
for better or for worse.
For humans, it's almost like we're not built
for that.
We're not built for that. You know what I'm saying?
We really not.
That's the hard thing. We're honestly not built for that, man.
Right. And I hear so many couples, like, not just married couples, but they, like Drew and I take our do nothing trips, of course, because of the pandemic. We haven't been able to really do it. But the do nothing trips are important. Because it's so easy to fall in the trap of the day-to-day cycle. When you got kids involved, you got work, you're doing this, you're doing that. It's easy to fall into that. And you forget about each other. And I think that's where a lot of relationships tend to go wrong, too. Because they forget about one another.
And then
you
focus on the kids. Like Nika and I have been talking. What she said, like, this must have been a week ago or something like that. She's just like, I feel blah, is what she mentioned. I just feel blah. I said, I feel blah too. I said, but this is the first time in 20 years, pretty much 20 years, we haven't taken any vacation. So you've gone from taking 3-4 family vacations a year, plus me again traveling. You know what I'm saying?
That free time.
That benefits the marriage.
Yeah,
it's like,
and that's
I ain't got to deal with this dude. Whether he's gone for a week or 2 weeks, it's like
it's still a break.
Yeah, it's that breath.
I always get that question from women, like, how did you deal with him when we first started dating? How do you deal with him traveling? Girl, because I got a life.
Yeah, it's that breath.
It's that breath, like I got stuff to do. And it's not just because of my son, but I've, had other things that I was into. And I'm like, and it was the breath of fresh air, that we would need, So we actually missed each other.
Yes. And so for couples who don't have that, like vacation is a very big part of our marriage and our relationship. Because it also gets us away from just our everyday norms.
Yeah.
The city, the drama, the foolishness, etc. So it breaks that monotony. And again, if you can take a vacation every so many months, you're constantly breaking that monotony. You know what I'm saying? And the same thing with like traveling, blase. And like she and I were talking. It's like, other than when we went to Atlanta for our daughter's baby shower, and when we went to Mississippi at the beginning of the year to prep the house for them to move there. This is I've slept in my bed every night.
Oh yeah.
For what's about to be 12 months.
About 12 months.
Oh yeah.
I can't tell you the last time
That you actually
I have slept in my bed
that
for
long.
12 months
wow.
straight. That
Yeah.
I've been home
to
every
do
day
that.
for 12 months straight.
Straight. That's a lot too.
I had that conversation with Maya one day, and I was like, I said, the first 3 years when I closed on my first house, everything stayed the same because I was never there. I literally signed the papers, closed on the house, and I left 2 days later to go back on the road. And I was gone for 2-3 weeks. I think we was gone for like 3 weeks. I couldn't wait to come back in there, but we was only home for 4 days. You had to go right back out. So for the first 2-3 years, I didn't even know what the bed really looked like.
Constantly.
Is a part of it, but every time when I got home, when I got home, it was just feeling like, all right, I'm good. It's just I can rest, and it got to the point when me and Maya started dating. The house actually proved to be the same thing for her. Because she, whenever she's like, look, I got to go.
I just need a break.
She'll just go to the house, sleep in the bed that hadn't been slept in.
Right.
While I'm on the road. So I understand. It's like we had an understanding kind of early. That look, no, we need this.
And I enjoyed the do nothing trips because it didn't matter. We would just pack a bag, get in the car, wherever we end up.
We would take cruises because we have kids.
Oh, okay,
so
yeah.
we do
Oh,
the
yeah,
cruise
do the
ship thing
cruise.
because of the kids. But it would be that same thing. As the kids got older, they run around, do kid camp, whatever they call it, kids camp, kiddo camp, whatever they call it. And again, Nick and I could just lay back. There were no real expectations. She bring her books. The only thing I really did was the what do you call it? The alcohol, the mixed drink contest.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm saying? But other than that, man, we just chill and lay. You know what I'm saying? But you have 5 to 7 days to just relax, to not do anything, not worry, and it kind of recharges you. Even with this pandemic, there have been times that even my kids have been like, man, when is dude going back to work? Like, Mom, when Daddy going back on the road? Because I'm in everybody's face. That's me. Because again, that's me as a parent, and me as a husband is like,
what you doing?
I'm all over everybody.
Like
you know what I'm saying? I don't feel, I'm uncomfortable with you being in your room for 2 hours by yourself. You know what I'm saying? We a family. We here together.
Like we need to do.
Whereas they're like,
I can't get mine out his room.
Whereas they're like, man, when Mommy is like, I can stay in my room. So I stay in our room, and Mommy watch Golden Girls or Sex and the City, whatever.
Yeah, we good.
This dude here, he want to go skating, he want to go walking, he want to go bike ride, he want to go swimming.
He want to do stuff.
Yeah, he want to do it. It's like, man, when this dude going back on the road?
Yes, indeed.
That is so funny.
Yes, and we're going to end that here.
Yeah.
And I enjoyed it,
Yes,
and
it's so good.
there's a bunch of other subjects we can talk about, and hopefully maybe in sometime in the future when we get out this pandemic, we might do that talk, So for myself, Andrew Bayham, this Drew's putting it out there. Special guest, Dr. Brice Miller.
Man, thanks for having me
Yeah,
again.
the Dr. Brice Miller. And my lovely Sharia Moore, Maya.
Yes.
Yeah, Maya. Well, we're gonna talk about that too because that's my Lilith. Yeah, but we're gonna talk about that another time. Yeah. So until next time, y'all. Peace.